I want you to think about the last performance review you had, not the one you gave, the one you received. How did you feel walking out of that room? If the honest answer is vaguely judged, mildly confused, and not entirely sure what to do differently, you have experienced the performance review trap. And today, I want to show you exactly why it happens and what actually develops people instead. Most organizations run performance reviews the same way. Once a year, a manager and a team member sit across a table. The manager reads from a form, numbers are given, competencies are rated, a development plan is written, and then both people go back to their desks and almost nothing changes. I have worked with organizations across Northeast India for years, and the pattern is identical everywhere: corporate, PSU, government, academic, everywhere. The review happens, the paperwork is filed, and 12 months later, the same conversation happens again. Why does this keeps failing? Three reasons. First, annual frequency. Development does not happen once a year, it happens daily, weekly, in real moments of work. A conversation that happens once a year cannot influence what happens every other day. Second, backward focus. Most reviews spend 80% of the time discussing what already happened: last year's targets, last year's performance, last year's gaps. But you cannot change the past. Development only happens when you focus on what comes next. Third, the rating kills the conversation. The moment a number appears, 3 out of 5, meets expectations, below par, the human being sitting across from you stops listening to your development feedback and starts processing their emotional reaction to that number. You have lost it, and the rest of the conversation is wasted. So, what actually develops people? Three shifts. Each one directly contradicts how most organizations run reviews. Shift 1: frequency over formality. One annual review does less for development than one honest 15-minute conversation every 2 weeks. Not a status update, not a check in on targets, a genuine conversation about one specific thing: what is working, what is not, and what the person is learning. I call this the development conversation. It has three questions only: what is going well that you want to do more of? What is one thing that felt harder than it should have? What is one thing you want to try differently this week? That is it. 15 minutes every 2 weeks. Compounded over a year, this changes people more than any annual review ever will. Shift 2: forward focus over backward judgment. Instead of spending the review discussing what already happened, spend 70% of the time on what comes next. Not just targets, genuine development questions. What skill do you most want to build in the next 6 months? What kind of work energizes you that you are not getting enough of? What is the one challenge you want to take on that you have not yet been given the chance to? These questions cannot be answered with defensiveness because they are not about judgment, they are about the future, and people lean into their future when someone genuinely asks about it. Shift 3: strengths alongside gaps. Most performance reviews are gap focused. Here is what you did not do well enough. Here is where you fell short. Research from organizational psychology, particularly Gallup's work on strengths, consistently shows that people develop faster when they are building on what they do well rather than only fixing what they do not. This does not mean ignoring poor performance. It means the conversation includes both. What are you genuinely excellent at, and how do we use that more? And where are the gaps that matter most for your next level, and what is the specific plan to address them? Strength plus gap together every time. I worked with an HR leader in a corporate organization here in Assam. She was frustrated. Her managers were completing performance reviews on time. The forms were being filed, ratings were being given, and her best people were still leaving the organization. When I interviewed several team members as part of a diagnostic, I asked them one question. After your last performance review, did you feel more motivated or less motivated to do your best work? Every single person said less motivated. Not because the managers were harsh, not because the ratings were unfair, because the conversation that happened, it felt like an assessment of who they were, not an investment in who they could become. We redesigned the entire review process around the three shifts. Fortnightly development conversations replaced the once a year event. Reviews became forward focus. Strengths were named explicitly alongside gaps. And 6 months later, she told me something that stayed with me. She said, for the first time, my managers are talking to their team members like they actually want them to grow, not like they are marking an exam. That one shift from judgment to investment changed the entire culture of those teams. Here is your challenge this week. Pick one person on your team. Before your next interaction with them, ask one of the three development questions. What is going well that you want to do more of? What felt harder than it should have? What do you want to try differently? Just one question this week. And tell me in the comments, what is the biggest problem with performance reviews in your organization? I read every reply. For CHROs and HR leaders watching, if your review process is generating paperwork but not development, DM me review and let us talk about what a redesign looks like. I am Bikash Kalita. See you next week.